So today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. It is 7:01. And we are in a virtual meeting room per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 20. This meeting will take place virtually via Zoom and pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 20. I'm hereby notifying all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting. And so the first thing we need to do is our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under indivisible, liberty and justice. Okay. The mission statement of Lee Public Schools is to ensure students have the opportunities to develop the social, civil, and critical thinking skills to thrive in an ever-changing world. Brenda, can I trouble you to do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Okay, Mr. Aubin.
Here.
Mr. Daly.
Here.
Mr. Kinnis.
Here.
Mrs. Lucy.
Here.
Mrs. Wadsworth.
Here.
Mrs. Westcott.
Here.
And Ms. Larman.
Here. Thank you, Brenda. The next thing on our agenda is to restructure again. So the first thing we need to do is confirmation of the chair position. So according to our school committee policy handbook, which is policy BDA section 3, the vice chair shall perform the duties of the chair in his or her absence, which in this case would be a resignation. This would mean that I would serve as the chair until the next organizational meeting. Is someone prepared to immediately make a motion to confirm Andrea Larman as chair for the remainder of the term?
I make a motion and we nominate Andrea Larman to step in for Christine Luce, chairman of the committee.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I totally agree with this, but I just want to note that we waived this policy back in October or November when we put Chrissy in as chair. But I don't think that matters, but I just want that for the record that we waived it and now we're instituting it back.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Any other discussion? Brenda, can we take a roll call?
Okay. Mr. Aubin.
Yes.
Mr. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. Kinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy.
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott.
Yes.
Ms. Larman.
Yes. Okay, and then next thing on our agenda is the nomination of a vice chair. And the vice chair would perform the duties of the chair in the absence of the chair. And so I'll entertain nominations for vice chair.
Make a motion, I nominate Randy Kinnis as vice chair.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, Brenda, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Aubin.
Yes.
Mr. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. Kinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy.
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott.
Yes.
And Ms. Larman.
Yes. Thank you, Brenda. And the next thing on our agenda is the approval of the January 12th, 2020 lease, I think it's 2021, Lee School Committee meetings minutes.
Make a motion, we accept the January 12th Lee School Committee meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Brenda, can you help us out again, please?
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
Christine, Lucy.
Mr. Robin?
yes,
Mr. Daly?
Yes,
Mr. Kenneth?
yes,
Mrs. Lucy?
Yes,
Mrs. Wadsworth?
Yes,
Mrs. Westcott?
yes,
Ms. Larmen?
Yes. All right. The next thing on our list is public input. Randy, are you ready as vice chair
Oh,
to step in?
to read
Hold
that.
on a second, Kathy.
Yeah.
If you're not Randy, I can
Yeah.
read it this time.
yeah, yes. Can you read it, please? Yeah,
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. It's gonna be your job moving forward, though.
I will take on that duty once I know it.
Fantastic. Members of the public are invited to address the committee at this time. Issues raised will normally be referred to the administration or subcommittee of the school committee. All right, Mrs. Hall, you're on.
Thank you. All right, in Lee Library News, during February, Love Your Library Month, there will be a book raffle. Check the library website for details. Also, go to www.lovemasslibraries.com to send a Valentine message to our library and staff. The information is on their website. Starting February 8th, the library will be open for browsing the stacks, printing or copying for 30-minute appointments. Call the library 243-0385 for details and to make an in-person appointment. Curbside service hours will continue. Again, call the library or email lee@cwmars.org to request curbside service. So wonderful things happening in our library this month. Lee Youth Commission news. The Lee Youth Commission's work in progress includes playground equipment for South Lee and Bradley Street playgrounds, upkeep of tennis courts and bocce court at the Lee Athletic Field, and feasibility research for a potential community center. At this point, I would request that the Lee School Committee reconsider the placement of community partnership be added to the agenda. Once the strategic plan was mapped, the community aspect was in place, and the Lee Youth Commission was recognized as a partner in this plan. I would like to see a formal partnership created as part of the strategic plan and included in the school committee's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Does anybody else want to, I think that's top of Peg Byron's head that I can see raising a hand. Am I correct?
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Peg.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm new at this. I had watched a meeting previously and first of all, thanks for everything everybody does because it's been quite a couple of years and the school has been, operating really nicely and thank you, everybody for your volunteerism. It's greatly appreciated. I was watching a meeting recently and it was talking about the union agreement. And I think if you went back to the school committee minutes between 1985 to 1988, I think this is when Otis withdrew from the union. It used to be Otis, Tyringham, and Lee. I don't know if anybody remembers any of this, but it was the case for many a year. And I think it was during that time that Otis left. And the school committee minutes might reflect that. Also, the last year I was on the school committee in 2006, I'm really old, we talked about the tuition agreements. And so if a research were done, you might want it, somebody might, I don't know if they would be interested or not, but just looking at the year and the amounts and maybe the numbers and things like that in just a manner to get some information. I know your budgets, you're doing the union agreement or something at the end of the meeting or during the meeting. I looked at your agenda. But there is, and when I was on the school committee many years ago, I think it was only 2 or 3 unions in the entire state of Massachusetts. So it might be something that if you wanted to do research, you might at least have a few clues in which to find some information. Because we had tried many times at different times, and it's very difficult to find any information on these things that happened so long ago. So I just thought maybe it's something that somebody at some point might want to look into or not. But thank you, and thank everybody for everything you do. It's great, great, great. And I think you guys have done a great job during these uncharted waters that we're all in. And let's hope next year things change. But thanks again, everybody. And it's wonderful to see you all again. Some of you, and some of you I know, some of you I don't. But thank you again for everything. Thanks, Andrea.
I also see Nicole McElroy has her hand raised.
Hi, I'm Nicole McElroy. How are you? Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm the mother of Carly McElroy, who's a senior here at Lee High School. And first and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you to the school committee. Thank you to the administration and all the teachers for keeping my daughter in school for most of the school year. I greatly appreciate it. And I applaud you guys to keeping a safe community. I wanted to speak on behalf of the plan moving forward for the fall 2 sports. I know that the principal and the superintendent has probably received, as well as the athletic director, probably have received lots of emails regarding this matter. But I thought it was important, rather than an email, to speak on my daughter's behalf and some of her teammates. I would love to see them play if they can in a safe manner. And if there could be a discussion regarding how that can happen or why it cannot happen. I think the school has been really great in sending daily emails to the parents about any challenges the school is facing regarding COVID, but we haven't really had a lot of communication regarding moving forward with sports. And I think that's been a frustrating thing on the parents and the students. I think in the fall, the students really try to advocate for fall sports, and we just were met with a lot of no communication regarding it. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of, as a parent, as well as a professional who work with children on a daily basis to keep them safe. I know how hard that is, and I know that that's our main issue here, but I think that we could do it. So I'm just hoping that we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And hopefully you saw the communication that came out from Principal Briganti today about moving forward with sports.
Yes, I did. And I was very hopeful about the email for basketball. And I'm just hopeful that we can move forward with all sports, you know, such as soccer, football, lacrosse, whatever that might be. But I just think that it would be nice if there could be some more communication with the parents regarding roadblocks, because some parents may not feel safe to send their kids to play sports. And I think, and I respect that and I understand that, but some parents might be okay with that. So I think it would be really nice if there could be just an open dialogue with the parents and the school regarding the safety measures that would have to happen.
And also, Mike will be speaking about sports later on in his presentation during the superintendent's report too. So, Thank you,
Oh, well,
Nicole.
thank you. Thank you.
I don't see any other participant hand raised, nor do I see anybody on the screen raising their hand. So I think we can move on to student representatives reports from Asa Stone and Emma Punton, if they're here. There's Emma.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll be doing the student report this week. We're keeping it relatively short. The main thing that I'm just going to talk about is that last weekend, all of the students, or not last weekend, last week, all of the students over the course of a couple of days attended a suicide prevention presentation. Mainly we're focused around the acronym ACT, which stands for Acknowledge, Care, and Tell. And it was centered around recognizing and being able to act on the symptoms of suicide and depression, and knowing how to help people who you may recognize those in, which is tough to do in times when you're home and you're not seeing people. So I thought it was a really good time to see this presentation, and that overall it was very informational, and I thought it was structured in a good way. And students were given the chance to reach out if they felt that they needed it afterwards. So we thought it was good. That's about all there is to report this week, but
Okay, thank you, Emma. We really appreciate you sharing that information. Did anybody have questions for Emma about the suicide prevention coursework? All right, moving on. The next thing is the chair report. I don't have a chair report because before today I was still the vice chair. I will have something for you next month. So let's move on to the superintendent report from Mike Richard.
All right. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Good evening and thank you. And I appreciate hearing from Peg and Nicole and Emma. It's really nice to have some community contributions to our meetings, and I appreciate hearing the questions, hearing the concerns, giving us opportunities to reflect on the history of the committee to make sure that we're doing the best things that we can in the best interest of our school community. So thank you. For today, quick enrollment update. Not much has changed. We are down 2 students from January, the result of those students having moved out of the country. That is not a typo. It's not the county, it is the country. So we wish them well in their new home, in their new situation, but not too much has changed outside of that. COVID-19 update, we are yellow as of this week, or excuse me, as of the end of last week. So we've seen a drastic decline over the last month or so, from double-digit positivity rates down to 3.86. I had a communication from the Board of Health earlier tonight that mentioned that our positivity rates had 0 new cases since last Thursday. So that means that we're doing some things right here in Lee and in the surrounding communities. So kudos to everybody for acting properly. We've had 8 cases year to date among our school community. Again, we hope to see those numbers continue to decline and get us maybe into the green next week. Those are the metrics that I continue to share with you on a monthly basis. Those will be a part of this presentation that will get populated to the website. So if you don't know where to look for those on the state's website, you can certainly find them in my presentation that will be on the school's website. Quick update on vaccination. Appreciate all the efforts that our first responders have been given to make sure that those people in phase 1 and individuals age 75 and older as part of phase 2 are getting their vaccinations. There is county-wide effort, and Berkshire County is truly doing a remarkable job in making sure that those who are in need are being treated. Educators are part of phase 2, and we are hopeful that maybe at the end of this month, at the beginning of next, that we will be able to get our educators in line for vaccines. students at this time aren't expected to be eligible, although some students of certain ages may be when the time comes. Pooled testing is something that I spoke about at the last meeting, and I indicated at the time that we had some sort of questions and potential hurdles that I wasn't sure we could overcome. However, at this time, those conversations with some of my colleagues in surrounding communities have gone a little bit deeper. Had conversations with Berkshire Hills and Lenox and Central Berkshire to talk about sharing resources and responsibilities and potentially working together to make sure that we can engage in this work. And pooled testing, as you recall, is the idea of submitting multiple samples at one time to be tested, and that if anyone comes back positive, then we would do individual testing for any of those people who had been part of that testing group. It's a great way for us to quickly test those people who are part of our school communities, including staff and students. And most students would be able to self-administer the test, and that's something that I think is a great benefit, could be a great benefit to the Lee Public Schools. So stay tuned on that. We would like to move forward. If we do, we'd like to try to get that going in March. And then the funding, because there would be some costs associated with that. We've got I've got two identified possibilities. One is ESSER II monies, depending on if there's a need. I'd prefer to not use that. I would prefer to use Coronavirus Prevention Fund money that's coming our way. We expect to receive some monies in April, or in February, and then again in April, and about $37,000 worth that should help us to be able to fund the resources that are needed to be able to engage in pooled testing. The strategic plan, also known as the district improvement plan, I sent out a couple of requests for volunteers to the community. To date, we've had, I guess, 26 people who have expressed interest, and I'm never going to turn that away. I'd love to see that number grow a little bit. Here on this slide, I've shown you where those people have indicated their interests. Most, about half, are at curriculum instruction. Just about the other half are in program development. We've got a lone technology interest, and that's fine. The facilities and finance could use some supports from anybody who may have an interest. The work that we would do there is truly to help forge the way for the Lee Public Schools moving forward in the next 5 years or so. Really, this is the foundation upon which we would build our school improvement plans. It becomes the driving force behind budget requests as we move forward. And it's important to have true partnerships here. So faculty members, staff members, family members, including students, are welcomed to express interest in this. And the hope is that no one gets turned away. And at this point, it doesn't look as though that would be the case. So, so if you do have an interest, you can use that link. Again, once this is up on the website, you'll be able to click that link, or you can copy and paste it into your browser and go ahead and take the survey. It's very brief. I'm simply looking for contact information, and then for you to express an interest in where your preferred focus area to be. Winter sports. So we'll deal with winter sports first, and then we can transition into fall too. At the last school committee meeting in January, we advised that we were planning to forego the winter season and instead pursue intramural. To that end, we got both boys and girls intramural sports up and intramural basketball, up and running. And we've got a great number of students who are participating in that. When we returned to the hybrid model, we had an odd day and even day cohorts. Those students have had some blending going on as well. Students expressed interest in wanting to engage in games and participate with their colleagues and their classmates in other county schools. So yesterday afternoon, I had a nice meeting with 21 student athletes who joined Principal Briganti and Athletic Director Thompson and me to talk about what their questions were, what their concerns were, They shared their thoughts in a super productive and respectful way, and I really want to acknowledge them, because that was the most appropriate form of activism that they could have. So thank you to those students who reached out and asked for that opportunity. There were lots of questions about why we're not competing, and the long and the short here is that we have always placed our first and greatest emphasis on student safety, and that will always be the case. However, this afternoon, Athletic Director Thompson participated in an AD's meeting with his colleagues across the county. And at this point, there looks like there's an opportunity for the winter season to be extended and to welcome in some schools that hadn't previously committed. And I'll get into some more detail about that in a second. But the progression that we've taken to get here has been a year-long one. We started in the fall. We offered golf. Is very limited, no contact, limited interactions, and socially distanced. In the winter, we progressed on to having, this intramural, limited exposure to potential COVID, and limited to just Lee Middle and high school students. And then we've got spring, and we've got fall 2, and then spring coming up. But the options right now, Chair Larman, if it's okay, I would like to include both Principal Briganti and Athletic Director Thompson to talk about this, to make sure that questions get answered. But we are looking to have a limited, shortened basketball season that would be possible if and only if we continue to see these COVID-19 rates trending downward, that student athletes and coaches are adhering to safety protocols, and that we don't have any positive cases among the participants. So if it's okay, I'd welcome hearing from Athletic Director Thompson and Principal Briganti, Chair Larman.
Absolutely fine.
So Greg or Keith, I don't know who wants to go first.
I guess.
Go ahead, Keith.
Go ahead. All right, I was just going to give an update to the meeting today, where things are in the county, and the direction that it looks to be heading. As it stands right now, there are 5 teams that have begun competitions in basketball. That would be Monument Mountain, Hoosick Valley, Wacona, Mount Greylock, and did I get them all? I might have missed one there, but the schools that were not competing at this time were Drury, Pittsfield High, Taconic, ourselves, and Lennox. Part of the discussion today with the athletic directors was the possibility of extending the deadline for the end of winter season to incorporate those teams that are able and willing to get involved in competition. So right now, I know Drury has approved competition for their programs. However, they are also in a situation where they will not practice or compete until they are in in-person learning. And right now they are on a full remote model, and they plan to return to school on February 22. Pittsfield and Taconic have the same situation. They have a school committee meeting tomorrow. They also plan to return on February 22 after break. So again, I think we temper all this, and Mike pointed it out. And Mike, you mentioned in the meeting the other day, the key word that I've been using is a very fluid situation. We would love to be able, and we recognize, the need and the desire of our kids to participate after a long year and to be able to get out and get competition. So we've entertained all those ideas. We've listened to the feedback that we've gotten from parents and students, and provided, again, and I think everybody needs to realize this, the fluidity of the situation and where the numbers are as far as the COVID rates and all that stuff. Right now, we seem to be trending downward. If that continues, there is a possibility that we could return to competition the week following February break.
I'll just add that, the principals are voting electronically this evening, the county principals. tomorrow, as Keith said, it heads to the MIAA District Athletic Committee for their approval to extend the season. We certainly hope that all that goes well, and that after vacation we'll be able to schedule some of those games and move forward.
Thank you, Principal Briganti and Athletic Director Thompson. I appreciate that support. So I know that I'm sure there'll be some questions from the committee members that I'll be happy to entertain here after I wrap up here in a second. Just some things for you to remember that are on the horizon. February vacation, a much needed break for students and staff will take place next week, February 15th to the 19th. And I hope that people find time to relax, decompress, and stay safe and well. And then coming up at the beginning of March, we're going to have a virtual community read Across America Day, which is Tuesday, March the 2nd, which is always a great opportunity. One of my favorite days of the year, every year. And I hope that this is the only time we have to do it virtually. But with that, I'm going to return here to our regular screen here. And if there are any questions from committee members, I'm happy to answer them.
Chrissy?
Mike, do we have a plan or some thoughts on the fall 2 season?
Yeah, so fall 2 is looking like something that similar to winter we'd like to engage in for football, for soccer. I think that there's maybe some questions, and again, if it's okay, I would defer to Mr. Thompson on this, but I think there's some questions about volleyball, but obviously a lot of it is dependent on field availability and conditions, and we've had some discussions about whether we would engage in a full season or a partial season. What we do know is that our student athletes who are participating haven't had the same opportunities that they've been accustomed to get ready for competition. And so in some ways, this intramural, to use the winter as an example, this intramural season has been beneficial to them to give them an opportunity to get their sea legs strong underneath them and ready to compete. We're considering a similar approach for a fall 2 season, where maybe we've got a required number of weeks of true sort of conditioning and training before we'd engage in competition. But again, Keith, I don't know if you've got anything that you'd want to add to that.
Yeah, Mike, I would, this is kind of tied into the extension of the season, what we discussed today, with the idea of maximizing the opportunities for kids in each sport and trying to create a certain level of equity. So the overlap would kind of look like this. And as Greg alluded to, this goes to the principals have currently made a vote. It goes to the District Athletic Committee tomorrow for approval. If that happens, there is a potential for fall 2 sports to start as early as March 12th. And what that would look like with the overlap is, and everybody in the county was on the same page there. If we have kids who are participating in basketball past March 12, they will not be able to participate in both. They will have to wait until their winter season is over before they could jump into a fall 2 sport. That was unanimous around the county. The timeline that it was looking at right now, again, subject to approval tomorrow, would be March 12th at the earliest, and an end date of fall 2 sports on May 1, Saturday, May 1. Clearly there are concerns and issues around weather and fields availability early on in the season. The ADs are looking at all options available and communicating with facilities that may have artificial turf that could potentially be an option moving forward. But again, I mean, I think at this point, Mike, that, anything that we're able to get into is going to be a win and provide opportunities for kids to compete. And they have since gone back and, looked at different rules and whatnot as far as practices were concerned. So even if the weather is bad, I mean, very similar to what we have most years in spring sports, where we would be vying for time in the gym for kids to go in and get their conditioning practice. So when they are able to start competition, which I would anticipate would be probably right around the beginning of April, if we're fortunate, at the very end of March. But it would enable those kids to get in and start practicing and get some conditioning in so they could kind of hit the ground running when they're able to compete and we have fields available to do so. So it's pretty unanimous around the county. I know we've been all over the map, and each community and each school district is a little bit different as far as how winter sports. And I think that was part of the issues and part of the confusion for people. But as it stands for fall 2 right now, it seems pretty unanimous that all schools, obviously, again, with the stipulation that the metrics are where they need to be, plan to move forward with fall 2 sports.
And I would just add that we are currently doing signups for fall 2 sports. So students are currently in the process of signing up for those and expressing their interest so that we can have a kind of running start in the stuff that has to happen at the beginning of each season in order for them to play. So signups are going on right now for football, girls soccer, boys soccer, cross country, and volleyball.
Thank you, Greg and Keith. Does anybody else have any questions for Mike? All right. So let's move on to our principals and directors reports. And up first, we have Kate Retzel at Lee Elementary School.
Hi, everybody. Just have a couple of quick updates. In this last round of mode changes, we've received 7 virtual students back in to the building for either hybrid or full-time if they're K2s. And we've had 2 late people going to virtual. So we right now have a total of 38 virtuals. Well, we had started out with 59 was the start in September. So for different reasons, we've asked kids to enter either hybrid or full-time because the option wasn't working for them or their families, or they weren't making adequate progress. So working together with families to make this decision, we've been able to get most of the kids in person that we really need there. We've had a couple of grants that are coming up. We have, I think it may have something to do with a certain grandmother who works at the Mobile Exxon, but we get nominated each year for a $500 grant that is meant for STEM purchases, science, technology, engineering, and math. They asked us to focus on math if we could, but we can do just about anything. Again, this year with COVID, they recommended obviously that we'd get recyclable materials, but they understood that if we had to get consumables so that we could have more hands-on activities for kids, those were options too. So my staff is submitting to Paula Duhan, who's the science department head, what types of things that we can get for hands-on units during COVID. The other grant that came in, Jen Carlino and Julia Warner have been working with Lindsay Broom at the town hall with our insurance group. I've never actually said this word, so I think it's MIIA. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's a wellness grant from them. So we're going to have at LES, we're creating a relaxation room for teachers. And at the town hall and Lee Middle High School, the police department and the DPW will all have access to health and wellness items that they can use for during their breaks or whenever they need to. So thank you to those 3 ladies for working hard to get that. The grant is in the amount of $9,584. So that's all I have. Thank you.
great news. Thank you, Kate. Up next, we have Greg Briganti from Lee Middle and High School.
I'd like to start out tonight by thanking all of our students, faculty, staff, and families for the excellent reaction and work done during our 2 weeks of remote learning. It's not something that we want to do again, hopefully, but most everyone put forward great effort to make it be the best learning opportunity that it could be. Quarter 2 report cards were issued last week, so that means we've begun the second semester of the school year at this point in time. And as we begin the new semester, just like LES, we had a few instructional mode changes for students. Ours were almost an even swap. We had 4 students moving from virtual learning to hybrid learning and 3 moving from hybrid to virtual learning. We also had 3 January graduates from LMHS. So congratulations to those 3. They will be participating in the June graduation ceremony. So that will be coming up for them as well. As Emma mentioned during the student report, last week and this week, we presented the Signs of Suicide program to all students. It was a little delayed by the snow day last week, so we wrapped it up on Monday of this week. We had previously offered information sessions to the faculty and to parents. The central part of the SOS program, as Emma mentioned, is to ACT, ACT, acknowledge, care, and tell, when you think a friend or just anybody that you encounter is having some mental health issues that could be depression or lead to suicidal ideation or anything like that. Next week is vacation week, and I just want to wish everybody a restful winter break. Time to recharge and relax and get ready for that sprint to spring that's going to come when we're back on the 22nd. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Jen Norton with Special Education.
Hi, everyone. Right now on our docket, we started meeting and we will be meeting monthly for our preschool team to determine when and how we can expand our services. Right now, we're only servicing preschool students that have special needs based on a disability, but we would like to get back to having an inclusive program. And as the numbers indicate, at the very least, we're hoping to be able to bring our 4-year-olds back. We're working with Mrs. Retzel as well as a whole team to determine when and how that will be safely done. And we'll present that to you when we're ready to do it. And we want to make sure that we're giving, especially the 4-year-olds, a jump start to kindergarten. So maybe expanding that program that we've done in the past, and how can we extend it into the summer, assuming we're able to do some in-person services over the summer as well. And we are also meeting with St. Mary's, Mrs. Retzel, myself, and Jen Maston from St. Mary's. We're going to be meeting with some other staff the week after vacation so we can set dates for both preschool and kindergarten screenings. Normally those are held in April. Last year they were pushed off, so we're not quite sure what the plan will look like this year, whether they will be this spring or if we will hold off and do them in the late summer or fall. So that information I will get to you as we meet more in March and April. Progress notes went out, started to go out. They'll be finished going out this week, along with quarter 2 report cards for students that are on IEPs, so parents can be looking for those. We also were able to get some additional funding, both the 274 and the 298 grants, I believe. I might be wrong, 262. They haven't been around in the last few years, so we were able to get some additional funding back. So I think the year Andrea left was maybe our last year of having them. So it was great to be able to do that. There's not a lot else new. We're all working. We're glad that we are back to at least hybrid, and we're looking forward to hopefully being back more as we're able.
Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
And last but not least, Jordan Meyer with Facilities.
Good evening, everyone. The facilities continue to truck along well. There are no shortages or supply disruptions in any of our PPE measures or detergents we use to keep the schools clean and sanitized. We continue to make progress in areas of improvement within the facilities itself. We are constantly making adjustments to our HVAC systems and improvements. We continue to fine tune the measures that have been put in place for protection against COVID. We also have not lost sight of the future and the discussions being had in terms of athletics. We recognize that it was a good time to take advantage of no athletics last year, and we're expecting our fields to look very good in the future. We also continue to do improvements on the athletic side through projects that Mr. Briganti and Athletic Director Thompson have brought to light for their mirrors in some workout areas and new matting. Overall, the materials and supplies and equipment that's utilized is maintained well and serves its purposes for snow removal. Other than that, everything is just humming along, and we look forward to keeping a safe facility going forward.
Thank you, Jordan. Next up on our agenda are our committee reports, and our first committee is our Finance Subcommittee.
Thank you, Andrea. We had 2 warrants that the subcommittee approved, and so I'm going to look for approval from our school committee. The first one is payroll, and the amount of payroll, the payroll warrant is $547,952.86. So I'll be looking for a motion to approve the warrant of payroll.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payroll warrant for $547,952.86.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, the motion moves. So why don't we do a roll call?
Mr. Aubin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kinnis,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
and Ms. Larman.
All right, the second warrant we have is the accounts payable. So I'd be looking for a motion to accept the accounts payable warrant of $163,321.46. Can I get a motion for that amount?
Make a motion, we accept accounts payable for $168,321.46.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Can we get a approval through roll call, please?
Mr. Aubin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kinnis,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
Ms. Larman.
Yes.
That is the only 2 warrants on the subcommittee's agenda, so we can move along to the next agenda item.
It looks like the next agenda item is the budget update.
Yes, the budget update. So the finance subcommittee received the 2022 budget. We didn't have time to look into it and to make an approval process. So we are going to look at March 9th at our next subcommittee finance meeting. to approve the budget. It is a level service budget. It is an increase of 2.99%. And most of the expenses on that have increased are in reference to contractual increases. And then there's some enhanced maintenance as well. But the subcommittee will take a deeper dive in our next meeting on March 9th, and we'll bring this to the full school committee in March. Does anyone else have anything to add about the budget? All right, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business, which is the first thing is the Union 29 agreement. Mike, I'm gonna let you talk about how many submissions we got for feedback, if any, since they came to you.
Yeah, I believe that 3 members shared either questions or comments related to the Union 29 agreement, as was agreed to at the last meeting. I forwarded those to Attorney Duperret for his consultation and consideration. So I didn't act on anything. I simply acted as the intermediary and moved them along to Attorney Duperret. So he would be in a better position to speak to that feedback that he received.
Perfect. Russell, are you ready to give us some feedback?
Yes.
Perfect.
So the only really substantive feedback, other than so 2 of the individuals or committee members seemed to indicate that the agreement was generally acceptable. The 3rd member indicated that the special education administrator should be removed. So I took that position out, and that was the feedback I received. So really the only change we made so far is taking out the special education administrator.
Okay. So did we, I'm sorry, I don't think I got a copy of the updated agreement that was with the stuff taken out. Are we getting a copy?
I sent it to the superintendent, and I think who else was on that email? Mike, do you have that? It was only the one change, so
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
I think it went to Amy and you.
So it would need to go out to the committee to re-review, I believe. Andrea is shaking her head at me, yes?
Yeah, it's identical to the one you already have, except special education administrator was deleted in one place. So there really isn't anything new to look at other than that was taken out.
Okay. So the question I have is, do we want to make a motion to approve this, or do we want to make a motion to table this until next month? So that
I
we
would
can,
like to make a motion to table it till next month.
I second.
any discussion? Okay. Brenda, can you do a roll call?
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
Ms. Larman.
Yes. Okay, and then, thank you, Brenda. And then the next thing we have on the agenda is the Lee School Committee SMART goals. I'm not on that. Sorry.
I'll just ask you a question. Do you want to provide me with more input between this meeting and the next meeting, or do you want to let me know if there's something now that you'd like me to look at?
Andrea, yeah.
Andrea, Chair Larman, Andrea, it's getting hard. I can't tell.
Go ahead.
Andrea L, Andrea W. I apologize. I did not do it. been very busy at work. I will send my updates that I would like reflected or considered.
Okay.
There's some, yeah. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, so I'll just keep an eye out for it
Perfect.
and we can go
Thank
from
you,
there.
Russell.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Russell.
Bye.
Thanks, Russell. And Chair Larman, if I could, please, just so that the committee is aware, those that feedback that I got, no fault of Russell's, came in yesterday, and I will admit that it got past me to forward it to all of you. So I apologize. I have just sent it to all of you right now.
Okay, thank you. And once Andrea's been able to submit her feedback, if any changes need to be made, then if we could get another copy of that before we meet next time so that we have that update too, that would be fantastic.
Sounds
Thank
good. All right, have a good night, everybody.
you. Thanks, Russell. Okay, next on the agenda is the Lee School Committee SMART Goals. As I started to say, I'm not on that committee, so I'm gonna let whoever is on that, I think Chrissy might be the lead of that committee. Yes, okay. So I'm gonna let Chrissy speak.
Thank you. At our last small work group meeting, we just reviewed our work. We hadn't received any feedback from members, so I forwarded the draft goal to MASC, to our field representative for feedback. And to put this into a timeline, we had met in October for workshop. The few of us that were there worked with Glenn Kuchar from MASC to draft a few key ideas that we wanted to put forth in our SMART goals. And he recommended we work with that small list that we had come up with. We presented our draft to the full committee. We didn't get any feedback yet from members, so I sent it to MASC, and just going back through my email here, the recommendation from our field rep was to get the entire committee working on creating this goal rather than a smaller team. So our rep recommended doing it in a workshop setting, or perhaps putting it on the back burner. So that's pretty much all the updates I have right now.
Okay. Thanks, Chrissy. Any questions or comments on that from the committee? Okay. The next thing on our agenda is the second reading and approval of our two new policies, the one for military children and the one for children in foster care. So does anybody want to volunteer to read those aloud, or am I it?
Can we waive the second reading? I believe Andrea Wadsworth had mentioned this when we met in the policy subcommittee.
Yes.
Make a motion, we waive the second reading.
So can I move that we formally accept this policy and waive the second public reading for, we probably have to do this separately for each one, don't we?
Yes.
So I move we accept policy JFABE, military children, waive the second reading.
I second.
Any discussion? Brenda, can we trouble you again for a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Aubin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
Ms. Larman.
Yes.
Ms. Lerman, can I ask a question? Didn't we have 3 policies that we worked on, or was it only 2?
Did have 3, but the first one was already a policy that we just made minor changes to, so we accepted
That's great.
the last meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so the next policy.
I make a motion that we accept policy JFABE, children in foster care, and waive the second reading.
I second.
Any discussion? Brenda, can we have another roll call, please?
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
yes,
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes, yes,
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
and Ms. Larmen.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Now we are moving on to new business. And first up on our list is Greg Briganti with the LMHS Program of Studies.
Good evening, everyone. I'm assuming that you have the memo from me in front of you. So each year at this time, I submit for your consideration and hopefully approval changes to the program of studies for next year. There really are only a few changes this year of any substantive amount to the program of studies. The first is with the middle school world language program. After several years of discussion about how to best bring a study skills course to all 7th graders, the world language teachers really have stepped up and would like to revise the way they teach world language. And so this kind of fit right into it. And what they would like to do is spend the first quarter of 7th grade teaching a study skills course to all 7th graders. And then the students would take their world language quarters 2, 3, and 4. And then in 8th grade, obviously, they would have a full year of the language. So that's the first major change to the program. The second is a continuation of changes we've been making for the past several years to the social studies curriculum, reflecting changes to the state frameworks that were published in 2018 or 2019. So if you recall, that started with revising the 7th grade curriculum, revising the 8th grade curriculum to, instead of US history, it became a civics course, a year-long civics course in 8th grade. For this current school year, we revised the 9th grade history course, which became US History 1. Our proposal for next year is the sophomore year history course, which would be Modern World History. And then we would anticipate next year at this time coming to you for the last change in that sequence would be the junior year history course, which would be US History Part 2. The third change has to do with the art program. And I would say that Ms. Clark is constantly looking at our art offerings and thinking of ways to improve them based on student requests and things like that. So she is proposing a couple new courses to replace some courses that have for a couple years now been undersubscribed and we haven't been able to run. So she's proposing to eliminate altered art and mixed media courses and instead to offer 2 new electives, one called Chroma, a course about color, and the other protest and propaganda art. And the descriptions you have there in front of you. Both of these courses, like all of our art courses, would run subject to student signups that we would do at the end of March and into April. And we don't, there will never probably be a year where we would run all art courses that are in the program of studies. We look at student signups and from those determine which art courses should run based upon student demand and requests. So again, there she's asking to remove some courses and to add some in their place based upon student input and things such as that. So those are the 3 major changes to the program that I would submit for your consideration.
Thank you, Greg. So I will entertain a motion to accept the changes to the program of studies.
I'll second it.
Did we get it first?
I thought you did it first. I'm sorry. I make a motion that we make these changes as presented to the program of studies.
I'll second.
Thank you, guys. So except W seconded Chrissy, Brenda, because I spoke over them, so I want to make sure you heard it.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said Mrs. Wadsworth made the motion and Mrs. Lucy seconded, correct?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready for the roll call?
Can we just do discussion
Oh.
first?
Sure.
Any discussion? Now we're ready for the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kinnis,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
Ms. Larmen.
Yes. Okay, next up on our new business agenda is the football scoreboard.
Thanks. So this is something that came out of the subcommittee meeting earlier tonight. The scoreboard is at the football field is in dire need of replacement. We are at a situation where we've got one available part that if it's needed to be replaced will be the last available part. As far as we could tell, it's like dinosaur age, as Mr. Briganti points out. You can't find it on eBay, you can't find it on Amazon, and you can't find it in a salvage yard as far as we know. So this football scoreboard is in need of replacement. There is a tremendous lead time associated with getting a new scoreboard because the vast majority, if not all, are coming out of China. And so in the subcommittee earlier, the approval was made to expend up to $25,000 out of athletic revolving not of athletic revolving, out of the athletics budget lines that we had have some savings from the fall to purchase the scoreboard, and we're looking for the committee to support that that move.
Do you mind if I just make a few comments? So the finance subcommittee doesn't approve line item transfers like that. If the money's in there, we've already appropriated it and it's by cents already approved. The superintendent can just make that happen. If you're not asking us to increase the line's been approved. We're assuming your leadership will spend it as necessary.
That's I love that, and that's fantastic. And I guess if it's okay, what I would say is then I guess we could probably table this in the next item and note that I will let you know that that's something that I'm looking to do with those funds, and appreciate your support in recognizing how we're going to use those funds.
Put a picture of the new scoreboard in a PowerPoint, show it to us at a later date, and we'll be very happy with it.
Thank you, Andrea Wadsworth, for clarifying that for us and saving us some time.
All right.
Okay,
So the same thing applies for the tractor.
correct. So then the next thing on the list is the budget line item for the class of 2024. Which I think might be Greg Briganti.
I can certainly cover that. Every year we come in with a new freshman class and ask for a new revolving account to be created for their fundraising purposes. That in this time, the freshman class is as hard as it is to believe, is the class of 2024. So we are asking for your approval to create a revolving account for the class of 2024.
I make a motion that the school committee approves a revolving account for the class of 2024.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one question. Are we getting rid of any of them, Greg?
Yes, the next item, which you could probably lump all together, is actually the accounts for the classes of 2018 and 2019. Both have less than $2 in them. And what we've done in the past is simply transfer those very small remaining balances to the current senior class. So we're asking for that as well, to close the revolving accounts for 2018 and 2019 and transfer those funds to 2021.
Thank you. I got ahead of it. So that was just, so You could take the vote and then I'll make the other motion.
You don't need to amend the one you've done now then.
No, we'll do it in two because it's financial and we got to transfer it and close it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And just for point of reference, you keep revolving accounts open for classes for 2 years, and then you either find out what the class is doing with the funds or you ask them to transfer them into a general account,
Perfect. Thank you
which is
for
what
that.
Greg's doing.
So we finished discussion on the first motion to open the revolving count. So next we need to do a roll call on that. Brenda, please.
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
and Ms. Larman.
Yes. Okay, and the next thing we need to discuss is the transfer of balances to the class of 2021. Do we need to discuss it again, Andrea, or can we?
Nope.
Okay.
I make a motion that we transfer, is it 2018 and 19, Greg? I make a motion that we transfer class of 2018 and 2019 into class 2021. Is that where it's going? In the revolving accounts.
Second.
Any discussion? Brenda, please, with another roll call.
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
and Ms. Larman.
Yes. Okay, and the last thing on our agenda before adjournment today is future business, and that would be our next meeting, which is on March 9th, 2020 at 7 o'clock. So, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
What time did you
Make
say?
the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what time is it?
Brenda, the last roll call, please. Oh, sorry, Anna's got a question.
What time is the March 9th meeting? Is that 7 o'clock still? Okay, I just didn't hear that. Thank you.
Sorry, Anna.
That's okay.
All right, Brenda, last roll call.
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucy,
Yes.
Mrs. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Westcott,
Yes.
and Ms. Larman.
Yes. So thank you, everybody who tuned in this evening. For those of you that have break next week, have a safe winter break, and we will see you all again in March. We are adjourned at 8:13 p.m.